Hi, I'm Marie.
And I'm Russell.
And we're still standing with Ukraine.
Hi.
And today we have a special guest, Christina. And Christina knows a lot about the history of Ukraine because she is Ukrainian, but born in the United States. And she's done a lot to help with the efforts in Ukraine, and we're going to find out all kinds of things. You're going to want to stay till the end because she's got a lot of information for us. And so, Christina, just tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit of your history.
Sure. So my name is Christina Pasichnik-Vogel. So Pasichnik is my maiden name. I am a first-generation American of Ukrainian descent. I was born in Pennsylvania in the late 1960s, at a time when Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. My mother was born in Ukraine. She and her family in 1944 walked out of Ukraine during the war and escaped into Germany. They spent 7 years in Germany, wondering where were they going to go, what was going to happen with their lives. And there's a long story involved with that as well, but the long story short, my mother ended up coming to America as a 10-year-old. So that's how she got here. And on my father's side of the family, my grandfather on my father's side was part of what we call the intelligentsia in Ukraine, in West Ukraine.
So that had to do with some sort of intelligence?
Well, in the sense that he was a very well-educated man.
Okay.
And he was Ukrainian. Mm-hmm. So his story, he was a little bit older. My dad was 10 years older than my mom, so his side of the history starts a little bit earlier. In 1929, when the Bolsheviks were coming into Ukraine, they were destroying anything Ukrainian, anything cultural. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things they did when they went into a village was they found teachers, professors, doctors, lawyers, anybody who was considered a leader of the community. And unfortunately, we use the word eliminate. They would eliminate them, or they would send them to Siberia. So with my family, they told my grandfather, he was 29 years old at the time, actually 25. He was 25 at the time in 1929. And they told him, you better get out of here. Get out of here before they come, they find you, and they kill you. He was involved with archaeological digs, digging up Ukrainian artifacts, writing about them in Ukrainian. He was a patriot. So the family said, go. But they had conversations, and he promised them, I will never forget you. And he said, I will tell the world about you, being the professor and being the teacher.
Right.
He was married. My uncle was already born, but he came to the United States on his own first to see, is America really the place for the family to go? And he was going to find a home, make all the arrangements, and then call for my grandmother and my uncle. So he was in the coal mining regions of Pennsylvania for a year. And after he was there for a year, he learned about a lot of Ukrainians being in the Philadelphia area, so he moved to the Philadelphia area. But that actually, he didn't move to Philadelphia until a couple years later, after my grandmother came, my uncle had come, and my father was the first one in the family born in the United States.
Oh my.
So Taylor, Pennsylvania, just outside of Scranton, coal mining region. So as a baby, my dad and the family moved to Philadelphia. So that's how we ended up getting here.
So he had to leave because they were trying to commit like an intellectual genocide to kill the culture?
Absolutely, yes. So everything that we are witnessing happening today has its roots in what happened in the 20th century and even earlier.
Oh my. And so I want to get back to some of your history, but also you're talking about the Bolshevik era, but then when Stalin came in, he did another thing that was just remembered last week, where he tried to not just eliminate culture, but the people.
Yes. You're referring to an event we call Holodomor.
Holodomor.
Yep. Holodomor is one of the starvation periods, famines that happened in Ukraine. There were several, but this is the one we consider the biggest one. And yes, what happened was in the winter of 1932 through the spring of 1933, Stalin ordered his military and all of his officials to go into Ukraine and steal all their food. The Ukrainians were resisting being part of the Soviet Union. They were resisting the collectivization. They were against anybody who was a landowner, anybody who had any money, again, any influence. And remember I told you my grandfather left in 29.
Right.
He just barely missed it.
Just missed it.
But again, thinking about borders and how borders constantly change, where my family was in Ukraine was the borderline of Ukraine to Austria-Hungary. So because my family officially was in Austria-Hungary, the famine didn't actually reach them, but the stories did. And everything that was happening was. And understanding terrible things were happening and eventually war was going to come, they said to my grandfather to leave. But with this Holodomor, yes, November is Holodomor Remembrance Month in the United States. And the third weekend of November is Holodomor Remembrance around the world for all Ukrainians. So people like me, I am 100% Ukrainian, but also very blessed, and I am proud to be an American. I'm very happy to be here because when Ukraine was not free, I was able to learn about my culture and my history, and I can support them now. But this Holodomor was intended, absolutely, as you said, by Stalin to eliminate all of the Ukrainians. We call it a genocide. We would like it to be recognized as a genocide. Individual states across the country recognize it as an event, as a genocide. And we remember. The number of Ukrainians who were killed will never be known. Even today, the Russian government will acknowledge about 4 million people died that year. They attribute it to poor farming techniques and a drought. But the Ukrainians know better.
Right.
We say potentially, if you really look at census numbers of people who were living in Ukraine at the time, there potentially could have been between 14 and 20 million men, women, and children, unborn babies, right? Put it all together, there could be that many people who perished in 6 months.
Wow.
Ukrainians have an expression. Unfortunately, Stalin accomplished in 6 months what took Hitler 2 years, is persecution against the Jews. Wow. So even if you think about it as 6 million people, this is at least on the scale of the Jewish Holocaust.
So the Russians nowadays admit 4 million?
They admit 4 million people died, but they will not admit it was a man-made famine perpetrated by Stalin for the purpose of crushing the Ukrainians into accepting collectivization and domination by the Soviets.
Yeah.
So we know if the Russians say 4 million, it's got to be way more than 4 million, like you said.
Yeah.
We're learning that again.
Yes, because
Modern
again,
times.
unfortunately, the victors are the ones who write the history books. So Ukrainians also say, unfortunately, we lost the war of propaganda.
Right.
Even as a child growing up and going to school, I was fortunate to be the fourth of 5 surviving children. We lost a baby sister. But we were all 1 year apart. So by the time I entered school with a last name like Pasichnik, I didn't have to explain I was Ukrainian. All the teachers knew I was Ukrainian.
And what does Pasichnik mean?
Pasichnik means beekeeper.
That's so cool.
It's one of the oldest names in Ukraine.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I want to, I guess, keep this moving. We will have you back so we can talk a little bit more about your particular history. But I do want to touch on this subject of not just Holodomor and what the past cultures of the Russian Empire have done, but the current one and the so-called peace plan, which looks like has been moved into the trash bin, gratefully.
Yes.
And what you had to say about that.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, I can't call it a peace plan. I was calling it a 28-point plan. And it was a plan asking Ukraine to capitulate, basically surrender.
Right.
And all the Ukrainians who understand Holodomor, the implications of that, what happened was, for people at home, looking at Ukraine and looking where Russia is, as the Ukrainians were dying and being murdered from east to west, Stalin was forcing his own people to move into the regions of Ukraine in the east. So when people are asking today, well, why are there so many Russian-speaking people in the east? This is why. It happened in the 20th century, and it was orchestrated, it was planned. So even the Russians living in East Ukraine in 2014, when the war really started, so this is 11 years of fighting.
Right.
A lot of people are focusing on 22.
Oh, yeah.
But this goes back to 2014.
Right.
And the newest invasion took place because Putin was not winning. He had to do something new. He had to do something different. Everything was at a stalemate. So again, as the people are moving in, the Russians were coming in. Ukrainians never stopped the Russian, ethnic Russians, from speaking their own language and having their own schools the way Stalin was murdering and imprisoning any Ukrainian who was speaking their language, practicing their religion, enjoying their traditional cultural heritage. And even today, this is a repeat. It is an exact repeat, because when Russia takes over a region of Ukraine, one of the first things they do is they go to the schools. They remove all of the books that are written in Ukrainian. They replace them all with Russian. They change the history, and they tell the people immediately, you now must be speaking Russian. You cannot speak Ukrainian. Ukrainians never did that. But that's
So different.
But that's why today, and Ukraine did used to be bigger. It has been chiseled away, like a lot of other countries. We're not the only ones.
Right.
But that's why Ukrainians today are saying, we are fighting for what we have. All of the Ukrainians who have died, not just since 2014, but in the 19th century, the 18th century, for the culture, for children and grandchildren, nobody's death will be in vain. We, the people, are saying, we do not want to give up our land. We will fight for it.
Nor children.
That's
Because
right.
that so-called peace plan did not make a mention of returning any of the stolen children.
That's the greatest crime of all. We talk about crimes against humanity.
Yes.
Who can imagine having their child kidnapped? Not knowing, well, having an idea where they are in enemy hands, not with people who love them.
What are the best estimates now as far as how many children have been taken to Russia since 2014?
Oh, I would have to look that up.
Thousands.
Yes, it is. It's into the thousands. Almost any child from the occupied regions. And if we look at the occupied regions, you take Ukraine and you overlay it over the United States, it's almost the entire East Coast.
Yeah.
That's quite a large area. But I cannot imagine my children. And when we look at what Putin is doing with his own people, sending his own men, young men, into Ukraine and to fight, and for what?
For what?
You can only imagine what's happening with the children from Ukraine. How are they being raised? How are they being
To
brainwashed?
be future
Soldiers
soldiers.
Russian soldiers.
to fight their own, their own people.
They would be the first to go, not the elite people from Moscow or St. Petersburg.
Exactly. So crimes against humanity, yes. So one of the points we would like to see is we definitely want to see children, soldiers, anybody wounded, reporters. There are still reporters being tortured. There's stories of that happening.
Oh, yes.
We want all the Ukrainians returned. Ukrainians will return the Russian soldiers. And the Ukrainian people are saying, you want to look at the war crimes? They're open to both sides. Put it all on the table. Let's make it even. And let's really see who's doing what.
Yeah. Who is doing what? Whew, I think we need a little bit of some fun stuff after all that heavy lifting there and talking about. So a little bit of what you brought. And
Thank you. If it's okay, Marie, what I would love to do, like you said, I would love to turn this around because the war, horrible. Nobody wants to talk about that.
And so tell us more about the Ukrainian Catholic Church in Manchester.
Thank you. So I am a parishioner of Protection of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Ukrainian Catholic Church in Manchester here in New Hampshire. We are the only Ukrainian Catholic Church between Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire. So one of our greatest blessings among the horrors of the war and the terrible things that are happening, it was through the church that so many people started coming together and helping out. WMUR even contacted us in February of 2022 and came to us and talked to us and was asking us how we felt about what happened. And of course, we were horrified. But it was because we were put on WMUR.
I saw you.
People heard about us and people found us. They started writing us letters. They started saying, my grandmother was Ukrainian, or my mother was Ukrainian, or my father, or I had a neighbor who was Ukrainian. And the American people, citizens of New Hampshire, were contacting us. What can I do? How can I help you? So we were a church. We were fine. We're a nonprofit organization. And if you remember back then, there were so many people who wanted to collect money for Ukraine.
Right.
It got to the point that the New Hampshire state had to come in and say, you cannot be collecting unless you are an established nonprofit organization.
Right.
So there was a gentleman by the name of Brian Nolan who contacted us.
Oh, yes.
Probably have heard from him
Yes.
multiple times by now. He lives in Bedford.
And we have mentioned him on the show before.
I hope you get him on the show at some point. He's in Ukraine right now.
Yes.
He's in the east.
In
He's
Kharkiv.
in Kharkiv, right. So he was asking to work with us, and he ended up finally starting his own nonprofit he calls NH for Ukraine.
Right.
We were starting with something United for Ukraine, but there were so many other people coming up with similar names. Okay, fine. We're just going to keep Protection of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Ukrainian Catholic Church. And out of that, I started to make a list of everybody who had contacted us. And I would love to be able to give recognition and credit to every single person who has helped us.
Oh.
But that would probably take an entire half hour by itself. But I will tell you, we've had individual people. I know you've mentioned Dobro of New England.
Yes.
Brian from NH for Ukraine. We had a woman whose daughter was very sick in the hospital. And she said she noticed the children in the hospital didn't have something to comfort them. She commissioned to have soft angel dolls made.
Yeah.
Oh.
She had 500 of them made. She tried to sell for fundraising for hospitals. She ended up giving us, I think, maybe 200.
Oh, wow.
So maybe later we can talk about a time my husband and I took a lot of those dolls to Ukraine. We've had people coming to us from different churches. We've had a Jewish synagogue. We've had Rotary, and I know you know about Common Man for Ukraine.
Yes, through
We
the
would
Rotarians.
love to
Yep.
partner with them as well. The Deerfield Community Church has been partnering with us
Nice.
very strongly since 2022. And I'd love to have
They
time
make
to tell you
these-
about that. Yes. So the blankets, these blankets I brought came from the church. They have now made 2,000
Nice.
no-sew and some other fleece blankets that we have sent to the people of Ukraine. They've gone to children, they've gone to hospitals, they've gone to refugee centers and
Elderly?
churches. Yes, yes. And right now, the last shipment, we split it. Half the boxes went to East Ukraine to support those who were displaced or even suffering from the bombings, because the entire country is being bombed. And then the other set went all the way to Brian. Brian sent us pictures. He sent us thank yous. He said, please send us more blankets.
Because he goes all the way to the front line.
That's right. That's right. And winter is coming, and it is very cold. And I think by now most people do know when Russia attacks, they attack the infrastructure. They're losing electricity. They're losing their heat. But the Ukrainians don't want to give up, based on what I mentioned about Holodomor. They say, this is my land, my home.
And I was just listening to someone on YouTube earlier today talking about when people fight for their independence, it's usually a lot longer than 3 years. 3 years is very short. When we fought for our independence here in the United States of America, with the little colonial troop that we had, it lasted for 7 years.
Yes.
7 years, but they wanted to keep on going because it was their land, and they wanted to not be under British control.
Right.
Just as the Ukrainians. And I don't know why more people don't understand this concept.
Well, they should think of, like you mentioned, the area that's occupied in Ukraine is like the east coast of America. If the average American thinks of the East Coast, well, why don't we give it to Canada? Because there are a lot of French people here and so on. It's unheard of.
Totally unheard of.
Yeah, people talk about, well, give Alaska back to Russia.
Right, yeah.
No.
But these are supposed to be modern times,
Right.
modern days. We're supposed to be more civilized. We're not imperialistic. We're supposed to recognize the sovereignty of the borders.
Of the borders that have been.
No expansion by force.
Right.
Exactly.
As it should be. And I think, was there something more about the anything about the people that
I was
are?
gonna say, yeah. So, in my list, even people I went to college with, I have a very good friend named Jonathan Fetter. His family owns America's oldest continuously operating forge.
Oh, nice.
And so on the table, I don't know if it can be seen, he had made, his company had made these bracelets, and he titled them Pray for Ukraine. So on the inside, they're stamped with Pray for Ukraine.
Right.
And on the outside, it has a very popular Vyshyvanka pattern on it.
So you're wearing it.
I am wearing it.
And the Vyshyvanka patterns are usually have like a protective nature to them.
Yes, yes. Pre-Christianity, Ukrainians considered them talisman, and it would protect them and keep them from harm.
Yeah.
So we have that. Like I said, the schools have been working with us. High school students, middle school students. Anytime people have seen anybody from our church on WMUR, and unfortunately it's been a lot, they will ask us if we want to teach Pasunke classes, do we want to teach embroidery classes, and cooking, oh my, the food. We've had vareniki making classes, which some people know as pierogies.
Right.
But it's the same thing, just in a different regions, get a slightly different name,
Yeah.
slight different variation to the recipe. But our little potato dumplings that we can stuff with
Yum, yum.
farmer's cheese, fruit, right? What some people call kielbasa, we call kobasa. So the sausage is delicious, a mushroom, onion mix. Oh, so many things.
Dobro has done a few workshops making vareniki, pierogis, and also, I'm not sure when this is going to air here in Concord, but we also will be having a Christmas ornament making workshop on Sunday, November 30th, in the style of the Ukrainian folk art, the Petrikivka. It's almost the style of what you're wearing there right now, and it should be quite fun. And the funds, all of the funds that are raised are going to go for humanitarian aid in Ukraine. And right now they've been sending a lot of things like hand warmers and feet warmers and extra warm underwear and things like that for the rough winter ahead.
Yes.
And then we'll also, at my space down in Concord on Main Street where the old CVS was, I'm going to be having my art there as well as some other Ukrainian art on right after Thanksgiving, November 29th, 28th and 29th, Black Friday and Small Business Saturday. And then Midnight Merriment is the following Friday night after work. Come out downtown Concord, and I'll be in my shop there, and Russell will be helping. And we're going to turn what we make on those days into humanitarian aid for Ukraine. So come by and support us and local artists. And I want to thank you for being on our, watching our show today. If you're watching this on YouTube, I want to thank you for doing so, and please hit the like and share it so other people will know what's happening and a little bit more about Ukraine. And I want to thank Concord TV for all they do in helping us produce this show. And
Now, if we twist your arm real hard, can you come back another time?
I would love to. Before I leave, I feel I would be remiss. I didn't tell you, because of the generosity of the people of New Hampshire, our little tiny church has brought in and distributed over $120,000 worth of support directly into Ukraine.
That's
I
so
would
good.
love to come back, and I would love to tell you some of the things that we have done.
Good.
And if you're interested, I'd love to tell you about some trips I've made into Ukraine.
I would love to hear about them. And,
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for everything that you do
and
for
thank
us.
you for everything you do, Christina. And Slava Ukraini,
Heroyam slava.
which means glory to Ukraine, and
Glory to the heroes.
I'll just say, still standing with Ukraine.
yay!
Thank you.